There's this very beautiful thing that I learned from my husband, and it is about how a couple can actually work together professionally. Now, for me, I am a very, very emotional person. So, when my husband and I started working together, we would have a lot of fights, and I was like, I can't work with you because you are really dominating, and you're this and you're that. I started labeling him. And he's like, you know what, I'm just being professional. Well, this is the thing that happens most of the times when a couple works together, or even if you're working with a family member, you just expect them to understand what you are going through, which is absolutely correct, right? But you have to draw a line between personal and professional. For a very long time, I did not understand that. I thought that my husband was telling me, the professional, everything. So I would take it really personally. But all that he was doing was telling me things on a professional level. Now, let me explain this to you. As a couple, we all have our personal lives. But, or even as a family, right? If you're working with your father or your friend or whoever you're working with, you have a very personal equation with that person. When you start working with that person, most of the times we forget to draw that line, that this is personal and this is professional. That is what saves relationships, that line. Because when you are professionals, you are both professionals. Today, if my husband comes and tells me something as a wife, it's personal. But if a CEO comes and tells something to his colleague, it is professional. For me, it took a very, very long time to understand this difference. And initially, when my husband and I were working, we came to a conclusion that we should never work again together because it's just causing fights in our personal lives and all of that. One day, he makes me sit and he talks to me. And he's like, you know what? It's not personal, it's only professional. I'm like, what do you even mean? Because that is something we've heard so many times, right? He's like, don't think of me as your husband. Think of me as your boss or your colleague. If your boss or your colleague told you the same thing that I am telling you, how would you take it? Would you take it personally? Would you take it professionally? And I'm like, oh yeah, I would take it professionally. And he's like, so think about this. Think about the company. Don't think about me. Don't think about you. Think about how you and I are benefiting the company. The profits, the losses, it's ours. It's not somebody else's. And we need to keep our personal life away from professional. And I was like, that does make sense, because it's just about the way you shift perspective. So one thing that we started doing initially was every time he wanted to have a professional discussion, I would be like, okay, you know what, let's treat it like a professional meeting. Let's sit across the table, discuss things professionally, not over dinner, not while watching TV, not while going for a walk. Let's be absolutely professional for this. And that actually helped us because gradually we started thinking of work as a separate entity in our lives, and we as two different individuals at work versus we taking our work home. And it improved everything. This is something I wish I knew while I was working with my best friend back in the day, and we would have not lost a business. We would have not had a fight. It's just some things that you learn over time. Because back in the day when I was working with my best friend, we started a business together. We had a split because I expected her to understand what I was going through in my personal life, which clearly should have not been a problem, right? And she expected me to understand what was happening in her personal life. So, again, as friends, I don't think this is something that both of us understood. We had to keep professional separate from personal. And that's where we lost a business. But now, when I work, of course, I am extremely professional. I'm like, you know what? My personal and professional are different. You can be friends with your colleagues at work, but when it is about work, it is about the greater good. It is about what you're contributing. How is your company growing because of your presence? You're looking at the company. You're not looking at the person who's, you know, um, giving you feedback. Of course, that person has nothing personally against you. They're also looking at the product, at the company, at what you guys are building together. So next time, The way to keep your personal and professional separate is to have that invisible boundary. It really, really, really works. Trust me.